What's going on, YouTube? In today's video of The Sauce, we're going to be talking about two teams in each division, who was surprising and who was disappointing. And by surprising, I mean in a good way. Let's get saucing, shall we? Welcome back, YouTube. My name is Matt, and welcome to this edition of The Sauce. I know what you're thinking. Where's his beard? What's going on with his hair? Well, it is almost the end of the season. The Lightning have officially clinched a playoff spot. I was really getting tired of the beard, so I needed to trim it down to one length, let it grow out together. So you didn't need to know all that, but whatever. It's there now. It's on YouTube, so whatever. That is what it is. So as I alluded to earlier, I want to talk about surprising and disappointing teams in each division. We're almost at the end of the season. Most teams have 6 games left. And as I just mentioned, or spoiled, a few teams have clinched a playoff spot. So we'll get into that in just a little bit, as well as a surprise and a disappointment for each division. So we've got to start off with the North Division, as I've done in every single video thus far. So let's get started. Alright, so starting off with the North Division, the surprise team, for me at least, is going to be the Winnipeg Jets. So it's a good surprise. So with 8 games left, they currently have 57 points. There's still a chance to catch second place Edmonton and first place Toronto. I don't know if that'll happen. Both teams have been playing consistent throughout the regular season. And now Winnipeg has a detrimental injury to Nikolai Ehlers. So I don't know, that worries me a little bit for them. But they do have a super high octane offense. I know I've said that before. And all lines are firing, if I can get the word out, firing on all cylinders. So they're doing really good there. Connor Hellebuyck is playing like an outstanding Vezina candidate goalie, as he always does. Laurent Brossoit is doing okay at backup, but that's all right. You need your starter to bring in most of those wins. Again, with Winnipeg, as I mentioned in the very beginning, their defense has always been a question mark for me. In recent years, not the years they contested for the Stanley Cup and made the Western Conference Final, nothing like that. However, this defensive core is not as battle-tested. They're a younger group. They're not as heavy-hitting. But again, they're a very high offensive team in Winnipeg. So it's great to see that they're doing so well. My predictions aren't looking so good, which will probably be the next video. I knew I would have to eat my words at some point. But that's okay, because sometimes predictions are not accurate. So that's why they're predictions. They're not ultimate truths? I don't know. I'm getting really deep here. I don't know why I'm thinking about this. But anyway, so Winnipeg, currently the number 3 seed. I don't see them missing the playoffs with the other teams behind them. We'll get into that in just a moment. And for the disappointment, so I couldn't put it on one team. So, and I know there's only 7 teams in the division, but I kind of coupled it together with Calgary and Vancouver. Both teams made the playoffs last year. I know there was an extended playoff format, so both teams, of course, made the playoffs. They played well enough to get there, but they showed such promise in those playoff performances. Now, Calgary, I know, was bounced early on, but at the same time, they didn't lie down. They attacked, they fought. And I thought that was going to continue into this year, especially with the addition of Jacob Markstrom coming from Vancouver. I thought he was going to be their goalie to save them and help them make these deep playoff runs. But this team is just not consistent. They fired their head coach earlier in the season. They can't seem to pull a string of wins together. Right now they've had some good wins against Montreal to try to scare them and get towards that playoff spot. But I don't see it happening. I think Montreal is going to stay locked into that 4th spot unless Vancouver has something to say about it. Now, for Vancouver to get in, it's a long shot. They have the fewest amount of games played, and I don't know what they're going to do with the remaining games, or if they're going to have to play a lot of back-to-backs, which means a lot of the North Division teams are going to play back-to-backs. But when they first came back from all the COVID cases that they had and COVID protocols, they actually had a couple of really good wins against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Made Steve Dangle lose his mind. Those videos are hilarious to watch, by the way. If you haven't already, check out Steve Dangle. I love his videos. But that's enough of plug and play. Let's keep moving on Vancouver, shall we? So Vancouver, again, just, I don't know, they beat the St. Louis Blues last year, the Stanley Cup champions of the year prior, and I don't get it. I don't get it. I thought they were going to do much better than they have this season, and it's really unfortunate. The COVID cases had something to do with it along the end, but they weren't playing good up to that point anyway, and I just don't know. Just like Calgary, I don't know what to make of this team. They're showing some good flashes now. Hopefully they can at least push to contest for that fourth spot. A lot of the other divisions have a similar story. That fourth spot is going to be heavily contested in the next couple weeks. We'll see. We got to move on. Okay, let's move on to the West Division. In the West Division, I'm going to start off with the disappointment. They would be the St. Louis Blues, and they are 14-5 currently. Yes, they are currently the fourth team. Yes, that means they're making the playoffs. However, they've just been inconsistent. These past couple games against Colorado have been phenomenal, and they just took it to Colorado, which, I mean, is great to see any team do with a team of that caliber. So, I mean, I think they're going to make that fourth spot. My Western predictions have not changed much throughout the year. The Coyotes were in there a couple weeks ago in one of my other videos, but St. Louis, Minnesota, Colorado, and Vegas are, the top four, and that's more or less how it's been. But Jordan Binnington didn't have good flashes. I just don't know. Why they're the disappointment is because they're not far removed from a Stanley Cup championship. I understand that they lost their captain. However, their goaltending hasn't been solid. They can't get consistent scoring, so that needs to start happening in these last couple games, last couple weeks, if they're going to have a shot at beating either Vegas they're going to get in round one or Colorado in round one. So I really don't know what to make of this team. I'm worried for them in round one. We'll see how they do, St. Louis Blues. And the super surprising, super positive part of the Western Division is going to be the Minnesota Wild. I love watching this team. They have a lot of good youthful players that are amazing and stepping up. You got guys like Joel Eriksson Ek and Ryan Hartman coming out of nowhere having great years. And you have, what are the names? Dalla Bill Kirill, the Real Deal Kirill. I don't know. There's so many nicknames for this guy, and he's just playing fantastic. And he's just so much fun to watch. This Minnesota team is just great. Their power play has been phenomenal as of late. Cam Talbot in net has been outstanding. And even when he wasn't in net, you have Capo Kakinen, who is backing him up, who hasn't played as much lately, but was phenomenal in Cam Talbot's absence. There's a lot to like about this Minnesota team. They have some tough games coming up in their next couple games. So we'll see if that does anything to their standings. But again, Zach Parise is back in their lineup. Matt Zuccarello is playing well. Kevin Fiala has found his groove. This Minnesota team is scary if they get rolling, so we'll see who they meet in the first round, but huge surprise, very happy. I know I had that at number 4, so for my predictions, it's not a huge surprise, but for how well they're doing, I had them sneaking in, so this is great to see that they're playing so well. Last thing on the Western Conference teams. So there's already 3 teams that have locked in a playoff spot. That would be the Minnesota Wild, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Vegas Golden Knights. So congrats to those 3 teams, and we'll see who gets that 4th spot. Will it be St. Louis, or will the Coyotes sneak in? Okay, so going to the Central Division. I've already said it before, so I'll go ahead and say it. I'll start off with this again. So the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Florida Panthers, and the Carolina Hurricanes have all locked in a playoff spot. So congrats to those 3 teams already. So total of 6 teams have locked in a playoff spot. That's it for now. So as the season progresses, we'll see what happens there. So the surprise in the Central Division is the Florida Panthers. They definitely overachieved this year by everyone's standards, and I mean, it's phenomenal. Last night, they played a crazy game against the Nashville Predators, who are trying to get to that lock in that 4th spot. They're currently there, so they're trying to keep the Dallas Stars away. But Florida was just in trouble. They outshot the Predators at the end of the game, 51-24, I believe, and the final score was 7-4. I checked it at one point; it was deadlocked at 4-4. Panthers pulled away 5-4, and the next thing I know, I see 7-4. What? And they had this rookie goalie, Spencer Knight, who's their goalie of the future, come in and steal them that game and relieve Sergei Bobrovsky, who's making crazy money. I think it's $11 million per year.
Well, that doesn't look like it's doing well.
But the GM of the Florida Panthers has made some sneaky good moves. He made some great moves at the deadline, getting Sam Bennett, who looks like a freaking wagon. He's amazing. And then you also have guys like Brandon Montour, they acquired at the deadline for defense. More of an offensive defenseman, but needed somebody to replace Aaron Ekblad, who is having a Norris caliber season. So those are great moves at the deadline. Then they had all of these small dollar signings. Connor Verhaeghe, Anthony Duclair, Radko Gudas, Nola Chari, like all of these players for under $2 million a year, I want to say. It's freaking crazy. So this GM is, I guess, in the talks of GM of the Year candidate, and then you have Joe Quenneville, who's the head coach of the Panthers, who coached the Stanley Cup champion Blackhawks 3 cups in 5 years or 3 cups in 6 years. So I mean, this Panthers team, the future looks bright. They look scary. I've told my bud I don't want the Lightning to play them in the first round. It's a scary team, so we'll see. But congrats to the Panthers. They're my good surprise for the Central Division. So the disappointment for the Central Division is going to be the Columbus Blue Jackets. Currently, they're in last place of the Central Division. Yes, that means the Detroit Red Wings are not last in the Central. Columbus has 42 points, and they just played Detroit last night, and they beat them 1-0 in a shootout. It took Detroit and Columbus a shootout to decide a winner at a 0-0 game. Oh boy! So before that, Columbus was on a 9-game losing streak, so they avoided the 10-game losing streak. So I had these guys at number 3, and they had back-to-back great playoff appearances, sweeping the Lightning, and then fighting the Lightning in multiple overtime games in round 1, and playoff appearances. Their previous playoff appearance where they swept the Lightning, they went and played Boston to, 6 games, and they were a tough team then. I don't get it. I don't know what fell apart with this Columbus team. I don't know where it all went wrong. The GM had some smart moves at the deadline, selling off some pieces like Nick Foligno and David Savard, try to get some picks. So I hope those moves will help the Columbus Blue Jackets make a quick turnaround. I don't like playing them, but they're a tough team. So hopefully this downtrend doesn't continue into the offseason. We got to move on. All right, so for the East Division, my good surprise is actually not one specific team. It's the trade deadline moves that occurred for Washington and the New York Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins, respectively. Boston had some moves, but they weren't huge moves. I guess they did get Taylor Hall, so that's the big move. I just was tired of hearing about him, so I tend to forget about him. But yeah, so Boston got Taylor Hall from Buffalo at the deadline, and they fleeced Buffalo. That poor GM just, oh boy, what a bad move. But anyway, it's enough about Taylor Hall. The New York Islanders get Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac from the Devils, who were not going to make the playoffs. They sold some veteran pieces to help a contending team. And then the Washington Capitals surprised everyone at the trade deadline, getting Anthony Mantha from the Detroit Red Wings. And they gave up a first, a second, Jacob Vrana, who's been repeatedly a 20-30 goal scorer, and Richard Panik, who's more of a depth player, but just gave up a whole lot to get this. He fits the bill, honestly. He's a big body, power forward, and he's been scoring goals ever since he got there. So those are my good surprises for the East Division. I don't really have one team. The top 4 teams are they're great. Washington, New York Islanders, Pittsburgh Penguins, Boston Bruins. I know I had the Penguins and the Bruins outside looking in, but I mean, it doesn't matter who you pull out of that lineup or plug into that lineup. They're just strong teams, and they've shown that this year. Oh, I did forget the Penguins, didn't I? They got Jeff Carter from the LA Kings at the deadline. The Jeff Carter trade is a veteran move for sure, but it's going to help shore up the Penguins and their lineup for some depth scoring. And I think he's got about 2 or 3 goals if I'm not mistaken. So not bad. It's going to be a good move, but hey, there's my surprise positive for the Eastern Conference. That was a lot of fast talking, so sorry if that went by too fast. Just again, trade deadline moves can get crazy, and I think all the teams did what they needed to do to shore up themselves for the playoffs. And for the unfortunate, disappointing part, I have to say it's, again, with 2 teams, the Philadelphia Flyers and the Buffalo Sabres. I've mentioned the Buffalo Sabres more times than I can count, and I don't want to beat them up too much more. Just they underachieved in the expectations that everyone had based on their offseason moves, where they were trending. They were at least going to contend for a 4th spot. I was hoping that would be the case, with teams like Boston and Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and New York at least try to contest for that 4th, 5th spot. I know where I had them in my rankings, towards the bottom, but I still thought they would be better and the division would be more even than it is now. So it's enough on Buffalo. It's unfortunate, but last positive there, at least for them, with the removal of Taylor Hall, they've shown a lot of signs of hope, even without Jack Eichel, and they've stolen some games here down the stretch. So we'll see what they can do. The new coach is turning out to be a good fit for the team, so we'll see if that continues going into the offseason. And then with Philadelphia, again, I've said it in videos past, they fell off a cliff. They didn't sell at the deadline, which I was super surprised about. They didn't trade any players away, but this Flyers team, there's this much of a chance, that the Flyers will actually make the playoffs. I think that the Rangers have a better chance, honestly, of making the playoffs versus the Philadelphia Flyers, but hey, anything can happen in this sport, and I really don't know. So I think that's all I have to say about that. I've butchered the Flyers and the Sabres up and down my past couple videos, so I really don't know what else I can say there other than they're just huge disappointments in this season. I really thought the Flyers were going to continue off of that great season they had last year into the playoffs, and I thought the Buffalo Sabres were going to look better this year, but we all get surprised now, don't we? So that was a pretty quick, fast, short recap of a little bit of positive, a little bit of negative, surprises, disappointments for each division. Again, I'm excited. Playoff hockey's right around the corner, so we'll see what the future brings. And again, I don't know what to make of some of these teams. It's a crazy sport, and that's why I love it. You gotta be a little bit crazy to love it, gotta be a little bit crazy to play it. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of The Sauce. A lot of playoff updates coming up soon, so I'll try to throw in some logos or jersey content so it's not all stats, players, for my not so involved hockey fans. I'll try to throw that in there during the playoffs, but less teams, it's gonna be a little bit easier to talk stats, so bear with me. But again, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you are starting to enjoy some hockey. And thank you again so much for watching. Make sure you click subscribe, leave a comment. What do you want to see in the next videos? How am I doing thus far? Let me know. My wife and I just hit about 2,000 views, which is a huge milestone. So we're really excited about that. And that's all thanks to you all watching not only The Sauce, but our main channel for Slice of Life. So thank you again for that. I think that's a long-winded outro enough. So we'll see you next time. Stay saucy.